Here's your divorce papers. My new wife will take care of everything now, so get out, you useless woman. My husband sneered as he handed me the divorce papers. I had been caring for his mother for about 8 hours every day. Wait. This is so sudden. I stammered. It's not sudden at all. You just didn't notice that Leighton and I have been together for 2 years already. I stood there, dumbfounded by his words. 2 years. Had I really been so blind for such a long time? I'm pregnant with his baby. That's why you're no longer needed, the woman named Leighton said, and they both burst into crude laughter. I glared at them, my shoulders trembling with anger and frustration. Seeing my reaction, they laughed even harder. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I felt the corners of my mouth turning up involuntarily, and what came out was a drawn-out "okay." I was actually thinking I'd reached my limit too. If you want me to leave, I'll gladly do so. But make no mistake, I will be getting compensation. Right after that, I left the house without telling them anything about his mother's condition. My name is Anne, a 41-year-old housewife. I had been living with my husband Wynne and our 15-year-old son Flynn. Wynne and I got married when I was 26. When we discovered I was pregnant, I was already showing. We didn't have a wedding ceremony because of this, which greatly displeased my mother-in-law. She never let me forget it. When we went to formally announce our marriage, she said, "What am I supposed to tell our relatives about this shotgun wedding? Maybe your family doesn't mind such things, but that's not how we do things here." Mom, we just got the order wrong, we were planning to get married anyway. Besides, these days, getting married because of pregnancy isn't unusual at all. What matters is that I'm marrying the person I want to marry, Wynne had defended me. That's not the point. I care about our reputation. Having a shotgun wedding is just so embarrassing. My mother-in-law was always obsessed with keeping up appearances and strongly opposed our marriage. However, with a new life growing inside me, we couldn't give up on getting married for our child's sake. Finally, my father-in-law stepped in and convinced her to accept our marriage. Unlike his wife, my father-in-law was a gentle soul who was genuinely happy about both our marriage and the pregnancy. To this day, my mother-in-law still berates me as that shameless woman who had a shotgun wedding. Despite her attitude, when our son Flynn was born, she was overjoyed at having her first grandchild and doted on him tremendously. If only she had just stopped at doting on him. Instead, she would barge into our house early in the morning and forcibly take Flynn from me whenever he cried even slightly, insisting on taking care of him herself. This caused me considerable stress. While Wynne had initially defended me from his mother, after Flynn was born, he acted as if his duty was done and stopped showing any inclination to protect me. One night, I complained to Wynne about his mother's excessive interference with Flynn when he came home from work. "Hey, don't you think your mother is being a bit too involved with Flynn? She's being overprotective. Mom just can't help herself because she loves Flynn so much." "Cut her some slack," Wynne said dismissively while loosening his tie. His attitude irritated me. Even so, there should be limits. I'm Flynn's mother. Yet I can't even take care of my own child. Don't you think that's strange? But Win wouldn't listen to me properly. You're just being oversensitive. Mom simply adores Flynn. Besides, aren't you happy that she takes care of Flynn so you can have some free time? That's not the point. While I appreciate her loving Flynn, I'm saying she shouldn't take over the things I need to do as a parent. I just want to raise Flynn as his mother. Stop making such a fuss over little things. You're being annoying, Win sighed and said, "Geez, I'm already tired from work. Why do I have to deal with this when I get home?" He stormed into the bedroom irritably. I tried to call after him, but he ignored me and shut the door. His behavior only made me more frustrated. My mother-in-law's interference with Flynn only escalated. Then something unbelievable happened when Flynn was 5 months old and starting on solid foods. One day, as usual, I had prepared Flynn's baby food and returned to the living room where he was waiting, only to find my mother-in-law feeding him something. What I saw made me stop in my tracks. "Mother-in-law? What are you doing?" She turned around at my voice. She was chewing something. "Oh, I'm just feeding Flynn his rice." Then she spat what she had been chewing onto a baby spoon. I was horrified to realize she was pre-chewing rice and feeding it to Flynn. "That's unsanitary," was my immediate thought, and I quickly took Flynn from her. "Please stop. Why are you shouting? This is how babies have always been fed. This is how I raised Win too." Holding Flynn close, I said with a trembling voice, "Please don't treat Flynn the same way. That's not how we want to do things." "What? Are you criticizing my parenting methods?" "No, that's not it. We're trying to use separate utensils until he's 3 to reduce the risk of cavities." My mother-in-law frowned. "Oh, so you're saying I'm unclean? You always oppose everything I do." "I'm doing this for Flynn's sake." "You're always nitpicking about little things. This isn't a small matter. This is about Flynn's future." "That's enough," she snapped, pushing away from the table and storming out of the living room. Watching her leave, I thought to myself, I really can't deal with this woman. That night, Win came home and immediately confronted me. "I heard you talked back to Mom again?" Apparently, his mother had complained to him. It wasn't talking back. I was just trying to do what's best for Flynn. That is talking back. Mom has more life experience than you. She's taking care of Flynn, you should be grateful instead of complaining." "I am grateful. But when she feeds Flynn in such an unsanitary way." Win furrowed his brow and cut me off. "What unsanitary way?" "I was raised that way, and all babies were raised that way. You just don't like anything Mom does, do you?" "That's not true. You're saying the same things as your mother. You don't understand my feelings at all." My voice shook as I tried desperately to hold back tears. "Have you ever considered Mom's feelings?" Win snapped, then headed straight to the bath without another word. Watching him walk away, I realized this man is no longer on my side. My throat tightened as I fought back tears. I couldn't cry now. I'm a mother, I need to be stronger than this. I told myself this as I slowly made my way to the living room, where Flynn was playing with his toys. Seeing his innocent face brought some peace to my heart. And then I remembered, I did have one ally. After dinner, while Win was lounging in the living room, I slipped into the bedroom and called my only ally, my father-in-law. After several rings, his gentle voice came through. "Is something wrong?" His kind tone made my tears flow, and I explained what had happened that day through my tears. "I'm so sorry for the trouble my wife is causing you. I'll talk to her." "Thank you." "I'm sorry for bothering you," I managed to say through my choked voice. "Don't shoulder everything alone. I'm happy when you come to me with your troubles. No matter what my wife or son says, Flynn is your child, so raise him your way. It's okay. You're a good mother, you should have confidence in yourself." His words brought fresh tears to my eyes, but these were different from before. "Thank you. I think I can keep going now." After hanging up and sitting on the bed, I took a deep breath. I felt like my father-in-law's words had given me strength. My eyes were probably red, but my insensitive husband wouldn't notice. "Hey, we're out of beer." Win called from the living room. I answered him and whispered, "Let's do this," to myself before opening the door. Afterward, it seemed my mother-in-law had received quite a stern talking to from my father-in-law. Her unannounced visits and frequent calls decreased, and I was able to spend peaceful time with Flynn. However, this peace didn't last long. Within days, her unannounced visits resumed, along with her snide remarks. But knowing my father-in-law was on my side made it somewhat bearable. As Flynn grew older, my mother-in-law's interference only increased. My father-in-law would notice and intervene, things would calm down temporarily, but soon return to how they were. This cycle made me sigh more and more frequently. One concerning thing that emerged from this pattern was that Flynn became quite passive, rarely expressing his own desires, because my mother-in-law would give him everything before he could even ask. However, something wonderful happened shortly after Flynn started elementary school. One day, after watching a violin performance on TV, Flynn was deeply moved and declared, "I want to learn to play the violin." It was rare for Flynn to express wanting anything, so I was genuinely delighted. "Really? You want to play the violin?" When I asked with a smile, Flynn nodded enthusiastically. "Yes. I want to be able to play as beautifully as that." Seeing Flynn's animated expression after so long, my mind was made up. "Of course. I understand. Let's look for a violin school." "Yay!" Flynn jumped for joy. I started searching for violin schools, but my mother-in-law and Win were not pleased with this development. "Violin? Why?" He was really inspired by a performance he saw on TV. "Absolutely not. Violin is for girls. It's ridiculous for a boy to learn such a thing. You must have put strange ideas in his head, but I won't allow it." I was stunned by my mother-in-law's cold response. I couldn't help but respond. "Why not? These days, it's not unusual at all for boys to play the violin. Please don't reject it outright. But my mother-in-law wouldn't listen. Don't talk to me like I'm some old fogey. Flynn is going to be a doctor in the future, so he should go to cram school instead of playing violin. That's right. You should just quietly listen to what Mom says. Flynn, instead of playing pretend like that, you should study hard and become a great doctor like Grandma says. Flynn said nothing, just hung his head. Their words finally made me snap. I want to let Flynn do what he loves. Besides, what he becomes in the future isn't for us to decide, it's Flynn's choice. But my mother-in-law interrupted me, shouting, "Enough. You're always talking back. Why don't you listen to me for once?" I absolutely oppose this. She stormed out of the room in a foul mood. Wynn added, "See what you did? You made Mom angry. This is what happens when you're so stubborn. Forget about the violin and send Flynn to cram school," before following after his mother. Left behind, I clenched my fists in frustration and helplessness. Flynn, who had been watching us worriedly, came to my side. "Mom, am I not allowed to learn violin?" Seeing tears in his eyes, I hugged him gently. "It's okay. I think it's wonderful that you want to learn violin. Let's look for a violin school together." And so, despite my mother-in-law's opposition, I enrolled Flynn in violin lessons. My mother-in-law was so displeased with Flynn for not following her wishes that she suddenly stopped doting on him altogether. Several years passed, and Flynn turned 14. That year, misfortune suddenly struck my mother-in-law. She suffered a stroke that left her right leg paralyzed and her speech slurred. She needed care for almost every aspect of daily life. While they initially considered putting her in a facility, she cried and refused, so they decided to care for her at home. However, whenever the care manager came to assess her level of care needed, she would try to act normally, resulting in a lower care level rating. This meant we couldn't hire helpers at a reduced cost. My father-in-law was approaching retirement and couldn't quit his job, so he asked me to help with her care. "I'm sorry to ask this of you, but could you help care for my wife? I'm just a few years from retirement. If I quit now, I won't get my full pension, and we still have a mortgage. I feel terrible asking, but could you care for her until I finish working?" Seeing my father-in-law's pleading face, I hesitated. Given my history with my mother-in-law, I honestly didn't want to do it. But I couldn't bring myself to refuse the man who had always been on my side. After some thought, I nodded slightly. As I watched him leave, repeatedly expressing his gratitude, I wondered if I could handle this new caregiving role. My instincts proved right. My mother-in-law's attitude was harsher than I'd expected. Despite her slurred speech, her sharp tongue remained intact, and her verbal abuse towards me escalated daily. One day during care, she spat at me, "I'd rather die than be cared for by someone like you." Though her speech was unclear, the meaning cut deep. I sighed inwardly and replied, "Please don't say such things." "Shut up. A thoughtless woman who lets her son play violin will raise a thoughtless child. I can't believe you let him continue with that ridiculous hobby. Please stop speaking ill of Flynn." He loves playing the violin and works very hard at it. Don't criticize him when you don't even know how he feels. Perhaps because I, who had never raised my voice before, suddenly shouted, my mother-in-law looked surprised for a moment. But she quickly narrowed her eyes and shouted back. How dare you speak to me that way? Get out. She started throwing whatever she could reach. Stop it. Please. As I instinctively covered my head with my hands, she became even more hysterical. What kind of mother are you, not even able to raise your child properly? Get out. Her intensity and fury made me back away, and I fled the room. For the past year, I had been caring for my mother-in-law for about 8 hours every day until my father-in-law returned home, but I'd reached my limit. Just as I was thinking I should tell my father-in-law, I can't do this anymore, I heard the front door open. It was too early for my father-in-law's return. As I tilted my head in confusion, I heard Wynn's voice. Ah. So you were here. Wynn. I thought he had left this morning saying he had a business trip. Yet here he was at the entrance with a visibly pregnant woman. In contrast to my panic, the woman gave a confident smile and nodded in greeting. Who is this? Oh, let me introduce you. This is Leighton, my girlfriend. I looked at the woman named Leighton standing next to Wynn. She appeared to be in her late 20s, with delicate features. Her smile exuded confidence. While confused, I tried desperately to understand the situation. Wait, what do you mean? It's exactly what I said. I met Leighton by chance, and as we talked, we really hit it off. Just imagine, such a young and pretty girl saying she likes me. Between a nagging woman like you and a young, cute girl, which do you think I'd choose? It's obvious, isn't it? Wynn shrugged as if it were the most natural thing in the world, leaving me even more confused. Wait, this is so sudden. It's not sudden at all. You just didn't notice that Leighton and I have been together for 2 years already. I stood there, dumbfounded by his words. 2 years. Had I really been blind for such a long time? And there's one more important thing to tell you. Leighton, tell her. Leighton fixed her provocative gaze on me, her expression triumphant. I'm pregnant with his baby. I'm 8 months along, due any time now. She continued her taunting. We already know it's a boy. Unlike a certain violin-obsessed boy, we're going to make sure this child goes to cram school and becomes a doctor. Your ex-husband's life has become a bed of roses with a young, pretty girlfriend like me. That's why you're no longer needed. As Leighton laughed victoriously, I was speechless. While I had been suffering through caring for his mother, Wynn had not only been enjoying an affair, but had even gotten his mistress pregnant. Here's the divorce papers. My new wife will take care of everything now, so get out, you useless woman. So pack your things and leave soon. Wynn and Leighton burst into crude laughter. I glared at them, my shoulders trembling with anger and frustration. At that moment, something inside me snapped, and I felt the corners of my mouth turning up involuntarily. What came out was a drawn-out "okay." Surprised by my seemingly playful response, They both turned to me with bewildered expressions. I smiled sweetly at them and said, "Finally, you've said it." To the stunned Wynne and Leighton, I continued smiling as I spoke. I was actually thinking I'd reached my limit too. I don't need a man who neglects both his son and me while having an affair. If you want me to leave, I'll gladly do so. But make no mistake, I will be getting compensation. Compensation? What are you talking about? Now it was Wynne's turn to be taken aback by my unexpected response. I continued calmly. Of course. Since you're the one who had an affair, you'll pay compensation. $30,000 each. $30,000? Ignoring their pale faces, I continued matter-of-factly. I'll only accept a lump sum payment. You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon. After filling out the divorce papers and placing them on the table, Wynne and Leighton finally started to look panicked. Had they thought everything would go their way? Wait a minute. I won't wait. I'll keep these papers until the divorce terms are settled. I'll also file a petition to prevent you from submitting the divorce papers on your own. And I assume you're fine with me having custody of Flynn? You'd only ruin his future anyway. I put the divorce papers in my bag and turned my back on them. Wait just a minute. Who do you think you are, making decisions on your own? Be quiet. You're the ones who've been making decisions on your own all this time. Do you have any idea how hurt I was, not knowing anything? $30,000 isn't even enough compensation. Looking back at their frustrated faces one last time, I added, "Oh, and congratulations on your pregnancy." Then I left the house without telling them anything about his mother's condition. Wynne must have been desperate to marry Leighton because he quickly agreed to my terms and our divorce was finalized. I got custody of Flynn. For the time being, Flynn and I moved into a monthly rental apartment. While I couldn't help wondering about my mother-in-law's condition, she had my father-in-law, and Wynne's new wife was supposed to take care of her, so I tried not to worry about it now that I was no longer part of the family. 3 months after the divorce, job hunting for the first time in 15 years went surprisingly smoothly. I found work as an office administrator. Flynn seemed to be gradually adjusting to our new environment and was practicing violin more enthusiastically than ever. Our new life was finally getting on track. One evening when I returned from work, I noticed several missed calls on my phone. They were all from Wynne, and even as I checked the history, more calls kept coming in. I wondered what he wanted after all this time, but his persistence made me finally answer. "Anne." "Finally." "About Mom." Wynne's voice was a mix of panic and exhaustion. "Mom's in really bad shape. She's basically bedridden now, and I don't know what to do." I knew my mother-in-law's condition had deteriorated. Actually, she was already nearly bedridden when I left. "What are you talking about? Your mother was already almost bedridden long before I left." "That can't be. Her care level was just support required, wasn't it? At least, that's what I was told. Look, I tried to tell you this many times. Your mother would act perfectly fine whenever the care manager came, so her assessment came out lower than it should have been. You never listened to anything I said. I let out a deep sigh. For nearly a year, I had endured my mother-in-law's verbal abuse while diligently providing care. Meanwhile, he had remained indifferent, spending his time enjoying his affair with Leighton. Wynne fell silent at my words. Then, he reluctantly spoke up. "Hey, and would you come back and take care of Mom?" "What? Wasn't your new wife supposed to do that?" According to Wynne, everything had gone smoothly until he introduced Leighton to his parents after Flynn and I left. However, my father-in-law had scolded him severely, and my mother-in-law refused to accept the marriage, saying it would look bad to society. Of course she would. My mother-in-law valued appearances above all else. She had complained endlessly about our shotgun wedding. There was no way she would accept a marriage that came from an affair, especially with a woman who was 8 months pregnant. My mother-in-law had apparently unleashed worse verbal abuse on them than she ever had on me. When Wynne rushed her to the hospital thinking her confusion was due to dementia, they found that apart from her slurred speech, her mind was perfectly sharp. Leighton had been furious, saying she hadn't signed up to care for a bedridden mother-in-law who was sharp-tongued, and she disappeared with their newborn baby. I was speechless at the irony of the situation. A bitter laugh escaped me. This is exactly what you should have expected. You know better than anyone what kind of person your mother is. She values appearances above everything else. There was no way she would accept a marriage that came from an affair, let alone with a woman who was 8 months pregnant. You were foolish to think you could be happy with your mistress. You really didn't think this through at all. Wynne was speechless at my words, but after a moment of silence, he began speaking in a small voice. "Look, please. Let's start over. If you come back, Dad will calm down, and Mom will stop complaining too. We're still husband and wife, right? Let's help each other. Even if we got back together, you just want me as your mother's caregiver so you can do whatever you want again, don't you? Don't talk nonsense about helping each other." Wynne seemed to flinch at my words for a moment. However, he quickly continued in a pleading voice. "That's not true. I really want to start over. I've learned my lesson. Only after you and Flynn left did I realize how important you both were to me." But I cut Wynne off sharply. "You only turn to me when you're in trouble. You want me back because your mother's care has become difficult and Leighton ran away. I'm sick of it." I hung up the phone. Wynne called several more times after that, but I didn't answer. I thought this drama was over, but life had other plans. 6 months later, Flynn was accepted into his dream university. However, on the day of the entrance ceremony, Wynne suddenly appeared before us as we arrived on campus. "And, Flynn, how are you?" When we turned around, startled by his voice, there stood Wynne with an unkempt beard and an exhausted expression. "Wynne, why are you here?" I stepped forward half a step to shield Flynn as I asked. "I came to get you both. We're family, aren't we? It's only natural that we celebrate Flynn's enrollment together. I don't remember telling you that Flynn was accepted here." As I glared at him suspiciously, Wynne's lips curled into a smirk. That smile sent a chill down my spine. I felt something ominous and gripped Flynn's hand more tightly. Wynne, how did you know? Have you been stalking us? Wynne shrugged and answered as if it were perfectly normal. Of course I know about my family's affairs. We're not family anymore. You're just a stranger now. Shut up, kid. This is between me and Anne. Wynne shouted with bloodshot eyes. I tried to speak gently to avoid provoking him. Wynne, please calm down. Today is Flynn's entrance ceremony. Do you want to ruin his special day? I could feel the stares of people around us gathering. While praying that someone would call the police, I faced Wynne. Despite my fear of his rough breathing, I tried to maintain my composure. Did something happen? Wynne gritted his teeth and began speaking with a trembling voice. I'm finished. I got into a fight with a major client at work and was demoted. Not just demoted, my salary was cut by more than half. I finally got Mom into a facility, but the costs keep piling up. Everything's gone downhill since you left. Then he turned his gaze to Flynn, and there was an unsettling look in his eyes. Flynn, you can help me. I saw it on social media. You're a popular violinist now, aren't you? I just need a little help. Come on, lend me some money. Wynne reached out his hand toward Flynn. Flynn, don't you want to help me? However, Flynn's response was cold. I'm not your son anymore. This is what you brought on yourself, isn't it? Deal with it yourself. Wynne's face turned red with anger at Flynn's cold words, and he clenched his fist. Then he raised that fist toward Flynn. You ungrateful child. Stop it. Don't you dare lay a hand on Flynn. I quickly stood between them and closed my eyes, bracing for the impact. However, the expected impact never came. When I nervously opened my eyes, I saw Flynn holding Wynne's arm. Using force when someone won't do what you want, you really are the worst. Damn it. Let go. Remember what you and Grandma used to say? That violin was just like playing house? Well, that a playing house is now recognized by society, and I'm in a better position than you. I'm even stronger than you physically. How does that feel? As Wynne glared angrily at Flynn's provocative smile, my prayers were answered. Police sirens could be heard approaching. Wynne tried to twist away from Flynn, but Flynn held his arm even more firmly. Ow. Stop. It hurts. As Wynne's screams echoed, the police car arrived. With many witnesses present, Wynne was immediately put in the patrol car and taken away. The crowd that had gathered gradually dispersed as the situation calmed down. Mom, are you all right? Flynn was concerned about me, but I was more worried about him. Flynn, are your hands okay? You're a violinist, you shouldn't have done something so rough. I frantically took his hands and began checking them carefully, moving each finger and looking for any swelling or pain. Mom, calm down. I'm fine, really. Look. Flynn smiled gently and slowly opened both hands to show me. Really? Nothing hurts? Really, I'm fine. Don't worry. Flynn gently placed his hand on my shoulder, and its warmth finally helped me regain some composure. Later, Wynn was arrested for attempted assault. While he avoided prison time, he received a guilty verdict with a suspended sentence. This incident further worsened his position at work, and rather than just being demoted, he was fired. My mother-in-law's condition continued to deteriorate. Actually, my in-laws had divorced at the same time Wynn and I did, and after Leighton ran away, my mother-in-law had entered a nursing home using money from her divorce settlement. However, when Wynn could no longer afford the monthly nursing home fees, he had to take her back home. But Wynn, having no experience in caregiving, struggled with caring for his bedridden mother and became overwhelmed by her constant complaints. Eventually, he became exhausted from caring for her and fell ill himself, ending up having to receive social welfare support. Perhaps it was karma that they now had to live closely together while blaming each other, more dependent on each other than ever before. Meanwhile, our lives have been going better than we could have imagined. Flynn's violin talent blossomed further at university, and he won numerous competitions both domestically and internationally. Combined with his social media popularity, he's now gaining attention as an up-and-coming violinist. As for me, I had the opportunity to work in music event planning, where the musical knowledge I gained from living with Flynn proved valuable. Now I'm involved in meaningful work like planning classical concerts and projects supporting young musicians. After one concert, we had plans to meet my father-in-law for the first time in a while. When we entered the restaurant, he greeted us with a warm smile. "Flynn, that was a wonderful performance. I'm truly blessed to have such a talented grandson. It's all thanks to Mom and you. I could only get this far because you both supported me back then. Thank you so much." I felt tears welling up with emotion. Looking beside me, I saw my father-in-law was teary-eyed too. "Let's have a toast." Flynn raised his glass, and we joined him with smiles. To Flynn's success, Anne's career, and our wonderful future ahead, cheers.